Bronny James isn't just playing basketball, he's fighting a battle no rookie ever signed to an NBA roster has ever quite faced before. A battle that goes deeper than talent, beyond the stat sheet, and far more personal than a simple draft pick could ever imply. From the moment the spotlight found him in high school, people didn't just see a promising young guard, they saw LeBron James' son. And that legacy came bundled with expectations so large they could drown most teenagers. Every dribble Bronny takes is judged. Every shot he misses becomes fodder for social media debate. And every possession is measured, not just on its own merits, but in comparison to the greatness of his father. That weight, the weight of a name, of history, of constant scrutiny presses on him in ways few can truly understand. He did not choose to be born Bronny James, but now he has to figure out how to become Bronny James. Anyway, long before the hype of the 55th pick, and long before the cameras started flashing, Draymond Green saw a young man with something real. Draymond didn't just notice Bronny's athleticism or his shot mechanics, he recognized a foundation built on basketball intelligence, discipline, and a relentless willingness to work. Having been picked late himself, Draymond knew what it meant to be underestimated, to have to fight for every opportunity. And he saw in Bronny not just a celebrity kid, but a competitor. In Summer League and during the early practices, Draymond wasn't a distant veteran on the sideline. He became a mentor. He pulled Bronny aside and told him things others wouldn't. "Fail on your terms," he said. "Don't play safe. Don't make decisions out of fear. The world expects you to be perfect because of your last name, but growth doesn't come in perfection. It comes in failure." That message was transformative for Bronny, who since childhood has lived under a microscope but hadn't always had permission to be just himself. In those scrimmages where Draymond sat courtside, he didn't coddle Bronny, but he offered an understanding that few could match. He remembered his own journey, the moments when scouts overlooked him, when his draft night was uncertain, when the noise seemed louder than his resolve. He told Bronny, "You have all the tools, basketball IQ, unselfishness, defensive instincts, but what matters most is your mindset." He kept reminding him, "You're not LeBron. You don't have to score like LeBron. You don't have to dominate like LeBron. Be Bronny, grow, learn." Draymond believed deeply in Bronny's ability to become a valuable NBA role player, not a superstar, not an all-star, but a guard who can anchor the defense, make smart reads, pass, compete, and stay in the league for a long time. That's what Draymond projected, because he remembered how valuable that kind of longevity was in his own career. Yet as comforting as Draymond's mentorship was, it couldn't drown out the voice of critics. Charles Barkley, in his characteristically blunt style, argued that the Lakers' handling of Bronny was fundamentally flawed. Barkley said Bronny needed real minutes, consistent touches, a place where he could fail in relative anonymity, a place like the G League, not just sporadic minutes with the first team. According to Barkley, the limited NBA spurts were doing Bronny more harm than good. They weren't building his confidence. They were building narratives. Every small mistake became a headline. Every turnover a clip on sports talk shows. And every quiet moment of growth went unseen. Barkley viewed Bronny less as a prodigy and more as a young man being afforded special treatment that came at the cost of traditional development. In Barkley's analysis, the problem wasn't talent, it was opportunity. He believed that being surrounded by veterans and being under the bright lights was denying Bronny the freedom to play like he belonged. Unlike other rookies drafted later, Bronny wasn't afforded the luxury of humility and obscurity. His mistakes would always be magnified, his progress always compared. That kind of pressure, Barkley argued, was unfair and potentially damaging. He urged the organization to prioritize his development over optics, to trust that the long-term payoff would be greater than short-term headlines. Kendrick Perkins, too, weighed in with a different kind of tough love. He praised Bronny's defensive instincts, the footwork, the anticipation, the willingness to compete, but he refused to coddle him simply because of whose son he is. Perkins' message was clear. Opportunities in the NBA are not gifts, they are earned. He insisted that Bronny needed to prove himself every night, to compete for every minute, to show that he belongs not because of legacy, but because of merit. Perkins didn't mince words, and his opinions strained relationships with some of Bronny's closest influences, including LeBron, Kevin Durant, and Russell Westbrook. But that tension only reinforced his point. The NBA is a meritocracy in theory. And for Bronny to truly belong, he needed to step into that meritocracy, not float above it. Kevin Durant echoed a similar thread of concern, though he framed it in a slightly different way. Durant believes Bronny's basketball future would benefit from more seasoning, not a guarantee of stardom, but a chance to grow outside the suffocating glare of the NBA. College, or even extended time in developmental leagues, could give Bronny more reps, more failures, and more time to build his confidence. He warned that rushing a young player who is already living in the shadow of one of the greatest would be a mistake. Tools are important, Durant said, but they alone do not make a career. The path, the environment, and the mental space are just as vital. Amid all that, some of the biggest voices in the game offered different, more nurturing perspectives. Shaquille O'Neal spoke with more empathy than people often expect. He knows what it means to carry a name, a legacy, and an enormous amount of public expectation. He openly called the comparisons and constant scrutiny toxic, cautioning that no teenager, no matter how talented, should have to grow under that kind of weight without protection. Shaq's advice to Bronny was not only to perform, but to guard his mental health, tune out the noise. Stay grounded, remember who you are at your core, and never let the pressure define your identity. Paul George, for his part, focused on the basketball fundamentals that transcend fame. He praised Bronny's decision-making, noting how he rarely forces difficult shots, how he plays within the offense, how he defers when necessary, and how he recognizes opportunities without forcing his way in. On defense, PG saw a kid who understands angles, stays disciplined, rotates intelligently, and doesn't gamble recklessly. These are the kinds of skills that matter in winning basketball, not the flashy highlight reels, but the steady, deliberate plays that help you stay on the court and contribute to your team. When PG talks about Bronny's ceiling, he's not talking about superstardom, but meaningful, sustainable impact. Anthony Davis added a deeply personal and emotional lens. He has watched Bronny grow in practice, seen him take big shots over veteran teammates in scrimmages, competed with him, advised him, and encouraged him. Ad remembers Bronny's NBA debut, not just as a moment for the public, but as a human moment, LeBron sitting courtside, Bronny stepping on the floor, the roar of the crowd, a son making his dream real. But beyond the spectacle, Davis felt something in the locker room: pride, a sense of belonging, and a genuine respect among teammates. He emphasized that in the team environment. Bronny wasn't just a story or a symbol, he was a teammate, someone to count on, someone with work ethic, humility, and growth in his DNA. Austin Rivers and Gilbert Arenas added their own wisdom. Rivers himself, the son of a coach, warned that sometimes the greatest growth doesn't happen in the bright lights, but in relative obscurity. In a place where a player can make mistakes without global commentary, he suggested Bronny might flourish in a quieter situation, a team or league that would let him be Bronny, not LeBron's son. Arenas urged aggressiveness. He told Bronny he needed to take more risks, to be bold, to attack more, shoot more, and stop playing in a way that avoids mistakes. According to Gill, hesitation is the enemy of opportunity. And if Bronny wants meaningful minutes, he must demand them with his play, not just wait for them. Meanwhile, Magic Johnson and Kenny Smith weighed in as voices from the past, veterans who have seen how guard careers are built. They reminded the world that Bronny was not a random experiment. They argued that Bronny didn't need to become a star overnight. He needed to become a solid, well-rounded pro over time. DeMar DeRozan added one of the most emotionally honest takes. He observed that many NBA players don't even love the game anymore, 75 to 100 of them, by his count, playing for contracts, reputation, or status. But Bronny, he plays like he loves the game. He shows up early, asks questions, defers, competes on defense, and doesn't act entitled. To DeRozan, that purity of passion is rare, and it deserves a real chance, whether or not the world wants to give him one. And then there's the broader, more existential pressure Bronny faces, the burden of legacy. He doesn't just have to play, he has to define who he is. Is he LeBron's son forever? Or can he become Bronny, an individual with his own game, his own identity, his own story? That quest is complicated by public scrutiny, media narratives, and the relentless comparison to his father. The world expects greatness, or at least a connection to greatness. And when Bronny falters, it's not just a rookie's mistake, it's a social event. Yet, through all of that, his defenders see something incredible. They see a young man who doesn't shy away from work, who competes, who thinks, who cares. They see tools, yes, but more than that, they see heart. And they remind the world that development is not a straight line. It's messy, it's unpredictable, it's deeply personal. Bronny's journey, in many ways, becomes a lens on a bigger conversation in professional sports about opportunity, fairness, and how legacy can be both a blessing and a burden. Should a son of a legend be given space to learn without constant commentary? Should development be sacrificed for marketing? And when the world watches, does the pressure help or hinder? These are not just questions about one player, they are questions about the very nature of talent, family, and the business of sports. As the season unfolds, Bronny carries more than a basketball. He carries a name, he carries expectations, he carries criticism, but he also carries potential recognized by mentors who believe in him, challenged by critics who want him to earn his spot, and supported by teammates who see him as more than a story. He is not just LeBron's son, he is Bronny James. And if he can navigate this turbulent path, if he can withstand the scrutiny, learn from mistakes, and grow into his own identity, then when the noise finally quiets, the world may come to see something they never expected. Not a teenager begging to be his father, but a young man defining himself. This story isn't just about basketball, it's about legacy, identity, resilience, and the weight of expectations. Bronny James' journey embodies a complexity rarely seen in sports, one where talent alone cannot define the path forward. From the moment he first picked up a ball, he carried with him a name that the world both idolizes and scrutinizes relentlessly. Every move, every decision, every success, and every setback is magnified because of who he is. It's a pressure few athletes will ever truly understand, and it has shaped Bronny's growth both on and off the court. He must navigate the dual realities of being both a rising player and a symbol of one of the greatest legacies in basketball history. Bronny's path is uniquely his own, yet the struggle he faces is remarkably universal. The struggle of forming an identity when everyone around you already has expectations. The teenage years are hard enough for self-discovery. But for Bronny, every trial, every mistake is under public scrutiny. The world watches and waits, often expecting him to mirror a level of greatness that even LeBron James took years to achieve. Critics dissect his performances, comparing him to a player who redefined the sport, and sometimes forget that Bronny is still growing, learning, and finding his place in a league that moves faster than any high school or college court ever could. The pressure to perform, to justify his place, and to manage the weight of public expectation could be overwhelming for anyone, let alone a young man still discovering who he is as both a player and a person. Yet, amidst the noise, Bronny has a network of mentors, teammates, and family who understand the delicate balance of nurturing talent while preparing him for the world. Draymond Green, Paul George, Shaquille O'Neal, Anthony Davis, and others have seen glimpses of his potential. Often in moments the public never witnesses, a perfectly timed defensive rotation, a confident pull-up shot in practice, or the mental toughness to compete fearlessly against older, stronger players. Their belief is rooted not in hype, but in observation. They see his intelligence, his discipline, his work ethic, and his willingness to learn. They understand that talent alone does not make a professional athlete. Resilience, adaptability, and the ability to grow through criticism are what separate good players from those who endure in the league. Journey also reflects the broader questions of fairness and opportunity in professional sports. How do teams balance the pressure to develop a legacy player with the reality of actual skill and readiness? How do young athletes learn and make mistakes in a world where every misstep is broadcasted, dissected, and compared? These are questions not just for Bronny, but for the NBA, the media, and the fans who watch the sport closely. They highlight the tension between patience and expectation, between nurturing and pushing, and between legacy and individuality. Ultimately, Bronny's story is about more than just the next shot, the next stat line, or the next highlight reel. It is about carving space to grow, finding confidence in a crowded world of expectations, and defining himself on his own terms.